Okay, so we continue with our class Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and today we start with Sefer Chaim, laws of Lashon Hara, derogatory speech. Just 1 second. Okay, so I think we did not do it. So the topic is character. So it says it is forbidden to say that someone possesses negative character traits. For example, it is forbidden to say that individual is quick-tempered, argumentative, stingy, arrogant, etc. So of course, nobody would want that somebody would say it about us, right? Quick-tempered, argumentative, stingy, arrogant, all of the other negative traits. To say that someone is of bad character is forbidden as it is derogatory statement. Okay. However, to indicate that someone is of average character, for example, that he does not overlook the wrong done to him, while not complimentary, is also not derogatory and may be permissible. So, of course, it depends who you're talking about. So, in some cases, they say, yeah, it would be permissible to say somebody of average character. Average meaning that he's not going to go or she's not going to go over over the line on one hand, but like not to extend himself over as well. Okay. The common situation where the term average has negative connotation, such a statement would constitute Lashon Hara. Okay, so I mean, if you would talk about maybe a leader, somebody like Rabbi, that he's of average character, that would be derogatory. On the basis of this principle of related negative statement discussed in day 4, so in previous day, the claim that the person known for his piety is in actuality no better than average is certainly Lashon Hara. The claim that the person known for his piety is in actuality no better than average. I'm not sure. 1 second. I apologize. One more time. On the basis of the principle of a related statement, for his piety, as we said in the day 4, that last day. So now everybody would go to that person, take advantage of him. So in some sense, it's Lashon Hara. So example that we gave in not class, the class before that, when someone said that he's a very generous person. Okay, he's a very generous person. Maybe he helped you when you were unemployed, needed money for rent. Now everybody, all of the people who wants like free money would go to that person. Why? Because you gave a compliment. So it's 100% Lashon Hara. Okay, no problem. So we continue with our Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and it's Siman. What is the Siman? It's Siman 46, and we start with Halacha 26, and the topic is the same: laws of forbidden foods. As we said last time, so this Kitzur goes like very, very briefly, but about many topics, okay, that were relevant in his time and his place where he lived. But we're going to explain, and here the commentary that Art Scroll put in is more like modern and would concern us more. Okay, continue. 26. Initially, one may not roast meat and dairy foods together in an oven, even they do not touch each other, because the aroma of the meat may permeate the dairy food. Similarly, one may not bake bread in the oven while roasting meat, since meat aroma might penetrate the bread. Kitzur discussed this law pertaining after the fact. So initially, as we discussed a few times already, so it's not proper to even to use one oven for meat and dairy separately. Like for example, on one day they would use, as it was a question I think last time or time before that I don't remember. So use Tuesday for meat, and Wednesday or even Thursday for dairy. Right? It's absolutely forbidden. And needless to say, if even to do it in one oven. Why? It's a simple answer, because aroma from one food would go to another food. Okay, continue. So now we're going to say after the fact. And another example that he gave is a bread. So bread, you're not allowed to roast with meat. Why? Because it's going to be meat bread, right? Even though there is no meat, but for us it's like a meat. So for us it's like a meat. So you would not be able to eat this meat with dairy even after the fact. Okay. So now we see what Kitzur has to say regarding bread that was baked together with roasted meat. So it's like after the fact. In the oven, the law is follows. If the oven was sealed and the roasted meat was uncovered, the bread is forbidden to be consumed together with milk. Okay, so commentary, which is understandable. So there is no escape for fumes. So of course, everything is going to go into bread. So you're not allowed to eat this bread with milk. Okay, commentary. It is permitted, however, to eat this bread by itself or with a meat meal, unlike the law of containing milk and gravy. Okay, discussing pre-sieve. Right, that's a different story. The concern for aroma is not sufficient to forbid the bread completely if it is merely caused for astringency initially. So initially we don't do it, but let's say some people never eat dairy for whatever reason. They cannot eat dairy, right? For health reasons, right? So in this case, it would be no problem, right? Or they eat dairy. I don't know. Let's keep it simple. So after the fact, they baked the bread together with meat, so you can eat this bread. They call it meat bread, even though there is no meat inside, but they call it meat bread. So you would be able to eat the bread separately, or with the meat, but not with the milk. Since it is initially possible to eat the bread with a non-dairy meat, one must do so. Okay, no problem. So, but initially we don't do it, but after the fact. Okay. Continue. However, if the roasting meat was covered, or the oven was open, it was not fully sealed. It is large, like our ovens. For description of the large oven, see Yorakdaya 97.3. No, I don't have it now. Okay, so something very, very large. Okay, then the bread is permitted to be eaten with milk. So we would need to know what is a large oven, but for sure it's going to be much larger than our oven that we use in our kitchens. Okay, 55 commentary. In a small and tightly sealed oven, the aroma of the meat, which bears some of the meat's essence, might penetrate the bread, rendering it meaty. In a large oven that is vented, the aroma is less concentrated and very unlikely to penetrate the bread. Therefore, after the fact, the bread is permitted even with milk. Sirama, shach, etc. Okay, so don't try it at home. We're going to see in our other class, Kosher Kitchen, what to do. But that's a very lenient opinion. I mean, we don't know what large oven is, but it must be very large. Okay. Continue. Nevertheless, even if the oven is vented and it is large, one should initially be careful not to roast the meat in an oven in which the one is baking bread. For an additional reason, so what the proper way to do? So I mean, of course, we have to cook one dish after another in the oven. That's what people do. So you first do bread, and bread is usually like that does not take very long time, maybe half an hour or so, 40 minutes. That depends on bread. 1 hour tops, so your bread is done. So and then do meat. That's it. So this bread is going to be part of. Okay, that would be like lechatchila is a proper way to do. Okay, so just 1 second. There is that we are concerned that perhaps gravy from the meat will flow beneath the bread. Okay, so when we do in one oven, and even when the oven is small, and even when the meat is being roasted in a pan, it is proper to be concerned. Okay, so don't do it basically. Commentary, Rama Yoredeya 97:1. Although when the meat in a pan is in a pan, no gravy can flow over the bread. Initially, it should not be placed in an oven with bread due to the concern of the aroma. So aroma is a big thing, right? So basically, aroma is one thing. Even you put it on the same level, but if you put bread underneath, so it may the meat may this gravy might drip on the bread, in addition to aroma. So of course it's that's not what we do. So as I said, it's proper for your bread to be pareve. So you can count on opinion if you had your stove for 24 hours, right? It did not use, so it is clean. Of course, you must clean it if you have some spills. So that's a different story. But if it's clean, like for example, everything was covered with aluminum foil, you just took out, you went it the oven. There is no spills. That's a different story. So you can do your bread, and it's going to be considered part of, if needed. Okay. 27. An oven that had meat, gravy, or milk flow into its floor must be heated up as per the law of koshering. And accordingly may not be used for baking bread or any other food of opposite type, for the substance that oozed into the oven floor, until coals pass over the entire surface and becomes white hot. So here he's talking about exactly what we just mentioned. We said, yeah, that's only true when the oven is clean. But if you have spills on the floor or wherever you have spills, you have to clean them up. So in olden days, all of the spills would be on a coals, right? That would be a problem to get rid of them. I mean, in this case, you would need to kosher the whole oven, right? And how do you kosher the whole oven? I mean, if you need to switch to the different type, if you, for example, if you use only this oven only for meat, and there is a meat splash, like spill, there is no problem whatsoever. You can leave it like that. So today in our stoves we have this koshering cycle, self-cleaning cycle, like more modern stoves. Like if you bought it like in the past maybe 20 plus years, many of them have this self-cleaning cycle. Not all of them, but many. If not, you just put on a max for 1 hour, an hour and a half on the max, whatever you have max, 500 degrees, 550. I don't it depends on the stove. 1 hour, an hour and a half, and it's going to burn everything in there. So here Kitzur says that until the floor become white hot. Commented the law koshering in detail, Siman 116. So we're going to get to it. It's probably koshering for Pesach. Koshering is necessary because the oven presumably absorbs some of the meaty or milky residue, which would become absorbed in whatever food it is subsequently baked in it. So that's what we actually that's what we explain in our stoves as well. The same thing. I mean, today it's easier for us. We have aluminum foil. You cover it so it's not going to splash and stuff like that. So it's much easier. Or you have what do you have? No, aluminum foil. Yeah, that's what you have. You have covers. Have what is it, pots with covers. It's very tight. Nothing's going to escape. So they're today in much easier situation than in days of the Kitzur. Continue. Siman, Sieve number 28. So it says Kitzur returns to the treifa issue. It is common practice to eat chickens that have been castrated. Even though the chicken can become treifa if the intestines punctured when incision is stitched. This is that's very interesting. This is because we rely on the reasoning that presumably the idolater who castrated the chicken was skilled and knowledgeable in procedure, such that he would not cause any damage to intestines while stitching the incision. Okay, so I'm not sure why would they do so, but let's try to read one more time and understand. I'm not sure why would people need to castrate chicken. So one more time, it is common practice to eat chickens that have been castrated. So the question is if it's a sick animal, if it's like one of the blemishes because of which we're not allowed to eat animals, right? Even though the chicken can become treifa if intestines punctured when incision is stitched. So basically what he's saying so far, so that they say castration of the chicken is not considered to be like one of the blemishes that would make it not kosher. But if a person would puncture the inside, like in intestines, like stomach or something, that would be an issue. Okay, this is because we rely on the reasoning. So why is it permitted? Right, that presumably the idolater who castrated the chicken was skilled and knowledgeable in procedure. But before we continue, I don't think even idolaters, I mean even non-Jews, are allowed to castrate animals. I don't think so. So for Jews, for sure, it's not allowed. But I think even non-Jews not allowed. Such that he would not cause any damage to intestines while stitching incision. So basically they castrate and then stitch the place. Okay. So it's very interesting. So this is see below 119.1.6. In commentary say there Kitzur discuss prohibition against castrating animals. Of course, it is on account of the prohibition that he assumes here that the one who performed the castration was not a Jew. Oh, that's very interesting assumption, right? So yeah, so we don't say that Jew did it. So most likely that non-Jew did it. Okay. However, if there is any flaw found in them, even if no perforation is visible, and the flaw is merely that the intestines are not lying in a place properly, the chickens are prohibited. So that's very interesting. So since we know for sure that it was some procedure is done on this chicken, right? So intestines like moved to the side. So that's and even you don't have a hole or a scar. Sometimes the hole is no longer there. It was let's say I don't know some time ago. There is a scar from the puncture. So and they could not find. I mean it's small, right? So but intestines were moved to the side. So that's we prohibit this chicken. Very interesting. Okay. Continue. Number 29. In some places, it is a practice for idolaters to fatten geese to sell to Jews, to puncture them beneath their wings with a needle or the like, so that the flesh will become swollen and they will appear fat. So okay. So it's very interesting. So they would puncture these geese under the wings. I'm not sure what place on the body is there. Okay. The question must be put to halachic authority as to whether or not they are kosher. So commentary says, in this situation as well as the following one, there is a concern that perhaps the internal organ was punctured, which would render the creature treifa. So if it's only like I don't know, skin puncture, there is no problem. So we care about these internal organs. So they do this whole. I'm not sure why. I mean they explain. So this geese would so the flesh becomes swollen and they will appear fat. I'm not sure that it's probably some kind of like a specific spot that would cause this. Okay. See the response of Imre Aish, Yorek Daya number 24. Similarly, in a case of an animal that as sometimes occurs, become endangered due to the excessive eating, and its remedy is that one pierce the abdomen with an awl, or I mean in AWL, right, like thick needle, at the point of corresponding to the location of a stomach. This too must be asked of rabbinic authority as to whether it is kosher. See the sponsor. Okay, so they don't give an answer. So looks like this animal would overeat, excessive eating, endangered, and the animal could not stop eating. Now it's in danger, so they would make a hole in the stomach. I'm not sure to relieve the gas. I'm not sure why they need to put this hole in the abdomen. Okay, but that's what it says. Very interesting. I mean, for us, it would be, of course, like a blemished animal. So maybe yes, maybe no, but we should know. So today on the farms, it's very simple. They give like special ratio, some special like amount of food, and that's it. They don't give like more. But when this animal go like on their own and eat whatever they want, so they can overeat, of course. Okay. Number 30. It is common practice to make fruit preserves by placing the fruit into a container, covering and tying the mouth of the container with the womb of an animal. Very interesting. And placing it thus into the hot oven. Okay, so the fruit should become preserved. Okay, so this combination somehow work for preservation. So the fruit preserved in this manner lasts long time without becoming spoiled. Very interesting. So this flesh with preserve, and somehow it's like I don't know. Maybe today plastic does the same, or our lids do the same. I don't know why. Okay, maybe. Okay, let's see. Let's continue. One must be careful, however, that the womb should not be of a kosher animal. Should be of a kosher animal. Okay, should be, which has also properly koshered, prepared for kosher use, by having been salted and rinsed to remove its blood. Okay, but this preserve, I'm not sure. We need to see if preserve is going to be meaty, right? Like even though this cover on this cover on top of the jar does not touch the content, but since they put it in the oven for some time, so I think it was like the meat would drip into the preserve, the way I understand. So commentary says, see Siman 36. We're going to get to it. But this process is outlined as the fruit warms, as the fruit warms in the oven, steam rises, penetrating the womb, and becomes suffused with its taste, of course, and then the descends and become mixed into the fruit. If the womb has not been koshered, the steam will render the fruit non-kosher, prima megadim. So, of course, we're not going to eat this part, the womb of that covered the jar, but it must be kosher. So if it's, because why? When you warm up, as with the sand, it's in the stove, so the fumes go up, right? Like mix with the womb and goes down, right, into these fruits. Very interesting. Learn here that the cover of the pot becomes infused with the flavor of the food cooked in a pot. Okay, and then releases the flavor. Then used when used further. So today, and we're going to see in our class of kosher kitchen. Maybe here he's also going to mention what to do if you took, for example, you have a meat pot, right, and by mistake you have your mother-in-law over, and she put daily cover on this meat pot. So what to do? Can you eat? Continue eating whatever you cooked or not? That's very similar. Similar situation. Thus, one must avoid covering the meaty pot with the daily pot cover, exactly, and vice versa. That's a parallel case. In any situation where the pot was covered with a cover of opposite type, even if the food cooked was parv, one must seek halachic guidance. And even though it says we seek halachic guidance, but we're going to see in details in our kosher kitchen class what to do and how. Sometimes you don't need to ask a question because it's a clear answer, but sometimes it's not. So there are several conditions. Okay, continue. So next one, 31. The remainder of the Siman deals mainly with the prohibition of consuming vermin. Okay. Regarding the wellspring and rivers, about which it has been established that their waters contain worms, it is prohibited to drink from their waters until they have been strained. Commentary. Only some of the vermin that develop in the water are prohibited. The vermin that develops in a standing body of water, such as cistern or rainwater, are not forbidden until they emerge from the water. Upon emergence, they become prohibited and remain so even if they return in the water. By contrast, a vermin that develop in a flowing water of rivers and springs are prohibited even if they never emerge from the water. See Yoredeya 84.1. These laws are derived from the scripture in Hulin 86b and 87a. Therefore, if a river or spring contains worms, they may not be drunk. One may not drink its water without straining it. Okay, so it's very interesting. So let's try to understand. Okay, so understand. This from the beginning, this piece, and we try to understand. So it says regarding the well springs and the rivers, about which it has been established that their waters contain worms. So worms meaning that they're pretty big, right? So if you cannot see something with the naked eyes, it's according to halacha, it's like not there. So today, I mean, we know for sure that in our water, like depends where you live. There is some bacteria, some of them like huge worms. I mean, according to our standards, according to standards of the city, maybe they're not so big, right? So in this case, in some places you are required to get a filter. It's not like a good thing to do. You're required if you like, right, to drink the water. Okay, so it says it is prohibited to drink from their waters. So one more time, if it's a wellspring or rivers, and we'll see what the difference is. Wellspring or rivers, so it's like living water. So meaning these worms got from somewhere, they would not develop in a river or this wellspring. That's I mean they did not right. So they're from somewhere else. That's the thing. So let's continue reading. Even after the fact, if one cooked food in those waters, it should be considered prohibited due to the assumption that the water contains worms. So even though you don't see and maybe they dissolved in whatever you cooked, still you're not allowed to eat this food, right? Because of the water. So let's go back a little to previous commentary and see what is the story with this vermin in the standing water, right? So let's see one more time and try to explain. Only some of the vermin that develop in the water are prohibited, right? The vermin that develop in standing bodies of water, such as cistern or rainwater, are not forbidden until they emerge from water. So they were developed in the water, right? And in this case, they consider to be part of the water. You understand? That's very, very interesting thing, right? So they're part of the water, and that's why even though you see the worms, you can drink them, eat them, whatever, right? But once they are separated them from the water, so that's that separate entity. It's no longer part of the water. And if I remember correctly, there is an issue with the worms and fish, right? And especially in the salmon, there are many worms in the stomach, right? So some worms are permitted, some worms are not permitted. So it depends how they got to the salmon. So salmon, just so we know, it eats a lot of shrimps, I think. So shrimps, they eat from all the garbage from the bottom of the sea, right? So salmon eats them, and the shrimps have a lot of worms with them, right? And these worms go into the salmon. So these worms are forbidden, but there are some worms, and you can check online, right? It's public knowledge, right? That develop in the stomach of the salmon. This is considered to be like a developed, like from nowhere. I don't want to say from nowhere. That were developed there originally did not come from outside, so those are permitted to be eaten. I mean, don't of course they're discussing, but that's the difference. That's exactly what he's saying here in the commentary. So in this cistern is like in olden times. If you go to Israel, there is I think it's a Timna Park down south, right? It's a very interesting park, and they have this cistern, the old one that they would prepare, or maybe it's up north. I don't remember what was it. They would prepare for the pilgrims that would go to Jerusalem. I think it's in Timna, right? So they would dig a hole, right? Put like cement around, and the water would stay there. They put around bush or something to cover it. And of course, there are many. Where the standing water is, there are many insects and many worms. Okay, so these worms that develop from the water, as Kitzur said, no problem. It's not Kitzur. Yeah, it's Kitzur said, but commentary explained. Upon emergence, they become prohibited, and remain so if they return to the water. So once they came out of this standing water, so they become forbidden, and that doesn't matter. They go back. I mean, they already changed their status. They can change the status only once. By contrast, vermin that develop in a flowing water, so somehow, I'm not sure how they develop in the flowing water, but of course it's possible, of rivers and springs are prohibited, even they never emerge from the water. Okay, so that's the big difference. These laws are derived from the scripture. I'm going to skip the sources. Therefore, if river or spring contain worms, one may not drink the water without straining it. And of course, as we said, if somebody cooked with this water, the food is forbidden. I mean, go check how. I mean, if you have a clean water, of course, it's possible to see the worms. But if you cook the soup, or you did the meat and now it's engraved, like there is mission impossible to go find the worms. Even not find, even to check. There maybe not there are no worms, but there is impossible to check. So commentary says one could reason that when the water was cooked, any worms that were present came apart and then become nullified in the water. Nullification, if possible, once the worm is not a complete creature. According to the water in any other food cooked, and food cooked in it, would be permissible. Chachmas Adam explains, however, that since the presence of the worms is certainty, while their decomposition is merely a possibility, we cannot act leniently. Okay, so let's explain, and actually here's an additional rule. So in some instances, when it's possible that there are some insects, and now they puree the food, whatever they did. So so after the fact, or it was like a dried and then grind, whatever, not grind they make powder out of certain things. So we say it was nullified after the fact, but not in this case. So this case, even though they did they cooked this water, and most likely all of these worms dissolved. So they say since it is very, very probable that they were there, so they're not nullified. If it's maybe they were there, maybe not, so in this case we can go lenient route, but otherwise not. So, and it's basically like from here we see how we should judge our personal situation, right? In some cases we can go leniently because it is in the case of the doubt. So basically when we decide whether it's kosher or not, I mean, if you have, of course, enough knowledge, so you see how many doubts there are there. So if there are no doubts, you know for sure that's what happened. We have to go stringently. Similarly, it is prohibited to soak meat in these waters or to rinse any food item in there. For the worms in the water will cling to the food, of course. I mean, they're alive, they want to eat, and that's what could be better if like vegetables or meat. Okay. Any questions on what we said so far? Okay. No. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes. You said the fish eats the shrimp.
Yeah. Especially salmon. Yeah.
Salmon. Okay. Does that the thing eating that shrimp, does that make the fish unkosher?
No. It's very good question. Yeah. So no, it's the salmon is still kosher. Still kosher. Doesn't matter what it eats. Sometimes it eats other creatures as well, not only shrimps. Right. So, but it still makes it kosher. And sometimes they can eat non-kosher, small fish as well. There is no problem. But a long time ago, I did my research, and I saw these worms. Like me personally, I have never seen these worms in in a salmon that we buy, even if you buy the whole salmon, right? As I told you guys, some like we stop. I don't have time for that. But used to when I have a little more time, so we would buy the whole salmon and they like clean it and stuff like that. So we did our own on our own. But the thing is that we would buy all of the salmon, or most of them were farm raised. So in farm raised, they feed them with different food. But wild ones, like that twice as much expensive, that those ones have worms. And if you look at the pictures, the worms in the salmon, you will see. So some of them are like in a stomach for sure a problem, but in the body it's not problem. So they give you the pictures like how it was developed. It's very interesting, right? Okay. Any other questions before I continue? Okay, no problem. Continue. So CF number 32. When straining water, one must be careful to strain it through the type of a cloth through which it would be impossible for even a tiniest worm to pass. Commentary. In this CF, Kitzur refers not only to the water that comes from the rivers and wells, but also to the standing water, such as rainwater that has been collected in a cistern. Right? The worms that develop in this water are not prohibited until they emerge from the water, but they can become prohibited through the straining itself. Right? So when you strain water, you separate. So now this worm was separated from the water, and it's proper to if they know for sure that's what's going on, they have to strain all of the water. So you take a cheesecloth, or you take like some kind of material that would, as a Kitzur cell would strain all of the not even the tiniest of the worms is going to pass. I mean, the tiniest mean that you can see with your naked eye. Okay, that's requirements. It does not say here, but that's what it means. If one uses a strainer with the holes, perhaps a worm will initially be held back by the strainer, thus emerging from the water and become prohibited, but will then manage to work its way through the strainer and then re-enter the water. That's amazing scenario, right? So initially you have holes, right, in this your filter of yours, right? And filter means a piece of cloth. That's the filter, right? And it was like restrain one worm, but then it would go back into the water through this hole. So and now it's 100% prohibited, right? Even for the from the standing water. Why? Because first it emerged from the water, became forbidden. Kitzur therefore cautions that when straining any water, one must be certain that the use of the cloth that will not allow any vermin to pass through. So meaning very like the tight cloth. But in all the days, all of the clothes was made like manually. I'm not sure how tight is it, but okay. I guess like our cheesecloth, I think. Something like that. Okay. Continue. Safe number 33. Vinegar that develop worms is prohibited even upon being strained. So let's see the commentary why. So it says it becomes prohibited specifically after being strained. As Kitzur goes on to explain, vinegar, as well as any other liquid, is like the standing water. In that vermin that developed in it becomes prohibited only upon emerging from the liquid. So this worm it developed in a standing vinegar. Very interesting. So so one more time, it did not go from outside did not get from outside. It developed in the vinegar itself. Very interesting. So one more time, vinegar that develop worms is prohibited even after being strained. Commentary. Okay, skip the commentary. For the very tiny worms that develop in vinegar can pass through any cloth. So meaning what? That the reason is they're very tiny. I'm not sure what is the difference. I'm not sure how they get developed. Okay. Indeed, straining the vinegar is detrimental to it, and it is preferable not to strain it. Very interesting. Indeed, straining the vinegar is detrimental to it. So meaning when you strain the vinegar, I'm not sure what else you're going to strain. Like what exactly what part of this liquid of cold vinegar you're going to like separate from what? I'm not sure. Right? So it says preferably not to strain it. So meaning what? As we said before, all of the worms that developed in this liquid, so they're actually no problem. For a worm that develops in the liquid, exactly, that is contained in a vessel, does not become prohibited until it emerges from the liquid. And as a result of straining, there is a concern that perhaps a worm will emerge from the liquid into the strainer and then return to the liquid. So that's exactly as the case with water. So they say in this case it's better not to touch this vinegar, even if you know there are worms. I mean, today I'm not sure how they strain, and I'm not sure how they make this vinegar like pure. But of course, I mean, we never seen like anything like even like sediment in a vinegar. Never, ever, ever. So of course, I mean, they add preservatives. I don't know. I mean, they add many things into our food that would not have all this creature, I guess. But they say better not to strain. Why? Because same concern with water. First you strain this worm, right? So it's completely forbidden, and then it goes through the piece of cloth. I mean, it's tiny, work itself out and go back to the vinegar. So now everything is forbidden, which is a problem. So commentary. Thus, even if the vinegar contained worms, it was permitted before it was strained, and becomes prohibited after the straining because of the worms that may have emerged and then re-enter. So that's actually you're trying to do maybe be a little more careful, but you actually ruin the whole vinegar. So now it is forbidden to you. It is therefore better to leave the vinegar unstrained than to strain it. So I'm not sure how heavy these worms are. So maybe if you're careful, like sometimes you have sediment, whatever you have on the bottom of not vinegar, not wine, but I don't know, some like preserves, right? You have like peppers, some spices on preserves. No, what was it called? Like pickled stuff, like pickled, right? So you if you don't shake it, so they're going to stay on the bottom. So you can strain whatever you need. There is no problem. Okay, so maybe the same in this vinegar. So just take the liquid, which is lighter on the top, and leave these worms on the bottom. If one desires to strain vinegar, the best option is to first boil up the vinegar and to strain it afterwards. For after the worms has died through the boiling, it will no longer pass through the cloth while being strained. So that's very interesting approach, right? So we say when they strain while the worms are alive, so it would the strainer would catch it, and then the worm like on its own would go through the cloth and fall into the vinegar. But if they're dead, so they can no longer travel. Okay, so they would stay on this filter. Commentary. This option can be used for the vinegar that was mistakenly strained as well. So that's very interesting. Very interesting. So this is amazing commentary. So even somebody tried to strain it, right? And the work did not work. Well, of course, it did not, according to Kitzur. So after the fact, you can boil it, kill all of the worms, and strain it again. Although it might contain prohibited worms that emerge from the liquid and return to it, if the vinegar can be boiled and then strained again, in order to remove the worms. Okay, no problem. Continue, sieve number 34, and it says, worms that develop in fruit while they are still connected to a tree are prohibited, even though they have not emerged from the original location in a crept to another location. Moreover, sometimes there is found in a fruit, as well as in beans and legumes, a type of black spot. There is actually the location in which worm has begun to take form. One must remove it from there, cutting the full depth to which it penetrated the fruit, for it is prohibited just like the actual worm. Okay, so let's read it again. I mean, it's practical, at least maybe not in the States, or maybe if you grow organic yourself, you have on your backyard, you have an apple tree or pear tree or whatever you have, and it's organic. You don't spray with all of the garbage that they spray. I mean it's preserve the fruits, but also we're going to eat it after that. So then you might have worms. So it's actually, when you see worms in the fruits, it means it's healthy fruit. If all of the worms died, guess what? It's not good for you either. Okay, so let's see what to do. So one more time, with commentaries. Worms that develop in fruit while they are still connected to the tree are prohibited. So what are what is it? I think Shulchan Aruch rules differently, but let's continue reading. I just explained what I see, but somehow okay. I think Shulchan Aruch says that if it was developed like this, it's part of the fruit. But okay, so far Kitzur says, if the worm was developed when even the fruit was attached, it's not like they enter from outside. No, it was there. It's part of the fruit. Okay. Even though they have not emerged from their original location and crept into another location, so they were always in this fruit. Commentary: the Torah prohibits consumption of creeping creatures. Vayikra 11:41. This includes the worms that crept on the ground or any other surface. A worm developing a fruit after it became detached from the tree, and the worm has not yet emerged from the fruit, is not prohibited, for this worm never crept upon the ground. Okay, here's what I was remembering about. So one more time. So, but the Torah says that these creatures that creep on the ground. So meaning that they literally touch the ground. Okay. If worm developed in a fruit, so meaning it never touched the ground, right? After it became detached from the tree, right? So detached from the tree, that worm has not yet emerged from the fruit, so it's always inside. So two conditions: fruit is detached, worm is inside, never got out. It is not prohibited. So meaning you can eat if you want this worm. Not recommended, but okay. But basically, the way I see it, we don't know whether it went came out and did not. Maybe if you inspect the fruit and there were no holes like complete fruit, maybe you can you would know that it's never came out. But if you have a hole, maybe it's going to enter inside from outside, meaning the worm, or from outside it peeked out and see what the weather like and went back inside. So that's also a problem. Okay, so it's not prohibited for the worms never crept upon the ground or upon the surface other than the fruit in which it's originated. So see your idea 84.3. Similar worms that develop in fish, oh here we go, or cheese do not become prohibited until they emerge and creep upon the surface other than that which they've developed. So some I never seen these worms from in cheese, but I'm sure if you look online, so you will see some. I never seen one. Okay, but about fish we said so worms that develop in fish and they look different. I'm not going to describe, but they will look different. The worms that develop in fish itself and the worms that that came from outside. Okay. Okay. So continue. CC Theme 43 and 44, so we're going to get to it. However, if the worms develop in a fruit that is still attached to the tree, it is prohibited despite never having crept upon the ground. For the fruit itself is viewed as an extension of the ground to which it is connected. So that's why, as we learned in our class, halachas of brachas, when you say on an apple, you say a fruit of the ground, but after the fact, it is a true statement. So why? Because it gets the nourishment from the ground, right? So same concept is here. So they say if the worm was developed in fruit while it was attached to the tree and tree attached to the ground, so in some sense it's like a crept on the ground, right? But when the fruit is detached, let's say it's on your table, it's right, and on your on a countertop, right, and they get this worm that inside, that's not prohibited. That's a different story. Very interesting. Continue. Moreover, sometimes, so just imagine that these things, I'm not sure when it was discovered, when they start like popular on the internet, they started writing articles. I'm not sure, maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago. This Kitzur is from 200 years ago plus, 250 years ago. So just so we know, right? All and it's this knowledge is not new. It's been in Shulchan Aruch, it's been in Gemara for 2,000 years. That's our knowledge, right? And we did not have microscopes, right? It's divine knowledge. Moreover, sometimes there is a found in a fruit. So I'm just reading it again, as well as in beans and legumes. So in all of the beans, so somehow even like for us, like how can you go to the bean? Bean, it's so hard. No, it's not hard when it's fresh, right? A type of black spot. There is actually the location in which the worm has begun to take form. So we have to like cut this piece. One must remove it from there, cutting the to the fruit depth to which it penetrated the fruit. So even though maybe the worm came out even from your apple, so you have to like cut like all the way, like cut the fruit and see this canal when it dark, and cut out this canal and throw out. Okay, one must remove it from there, cutting the full depth from which has penetrated the fruit. For it is prohibited just as the actual worm. So this spot when the worm was developed, where it lived, so it is prohibited. Don't eat it. I mean, and it's disgusting. Just okay. 71 commentary. Although the worms are still at the early stage in its development, for it to actually to creep, meaning in the beans, it is prohibited since it is of the species that creeps. So meaning it was very very little at that time, but that's the family that creeps, right? It is prohibited, the species that creeps, and it developed in an attached fruit which tantamount to the ground itself. Right? As we said, it says response of Rashba 275, Rama Yoredeya 84.6. Yeah. So meaning since it was attached to the ground, and beans they attached to the ground, the fruits attached to the tree, there's no problem. Okay, so I think we stop here. It's very very interesting situation, very like discussion. But today, so these food producers, well, what they do, they put a lot of chemicals to kill all of the worms, right? And you say, oh, yeah, lucky us, we don't have worms, but we eat much very unhealthy food because of that. Okay. Any questions on any topic? Go ahead.
I think there's one on
On WhatsApp? Yes, please.
It says, if we have a self-cleaning oven and we cook meat one day and then self-clean and then cook dairy the next time we cook, and vice versa.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So what you can do? So even with the self-cleaning oven, we try to wash. like if it's actual, you see actual spills, you wash them. I mean, that's not a big deal. And then you can leave it like that. And preferably, of course, the actual Kasher procedure, you clean it, like just clean the spills. If you don't see anything, there is no problem, right? And then you leave it for 24 hours to stand, and then you can self kosher, like when you put on a self kosher mode, or as we said, if you don't have one, you can put for one. I think 1.5 hours should be enough. I think so. On 5, I don't know. It depends on the slope. I think many of them would go 550 or so, maybe more. So do the highest 1.5 hours, and you can use it for the opposite food, whatever you want, for dairy, for meat. But usually it's not very practical because you have to wait such a long time. And what people do, they just buy small ovens, right? Electric ones. So the people would buy the small ovens and you use it for daily. So that's I think more practical than kosher, because especially if you try it in summer, it would like the hot. It's very hot, very very hot, and smelly, of course, because it has to burn all of these residues. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we can stop here, but that's what we do before Pesach. We cash our oven. There is no other choice. That's what we must do. If you want to use this oven, some people do not use the oven during the Pesach, so they just wash it, and then leave it like that. There is no problem. You're not obligated to cash your oven for Pesach if you're not going to use it. Okay. So, any questions, or we stop?
I have one.
Please go ahead.
So about blue cheese, can it pass as kosher?
Blue cheese. It could be kosher. Why not?
I think that type of cheese doesn't require
Bacteria?
the meat part of the cow.
No. Okay, so I tell you what. I never seen the blue cheese in the States. Maybe there is, but I did not see it. I mean, probably, but we saw it in Israel, and it's very expensive. I mean, it has some kind of bacteria in there, different taste, but some people like it, and they put it in salad. But there is always kosher way to do things, so there is no problem. So this bacteria, like the way I understand, it's not worms. It's something I never look into it. What make it like blue and this taste? But it's not a living creature, the way I understand. Go ahead.
not sure.
Penicillin. Okay, yes. So but it's not. It's not the worms that are forbidden. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other question is, if meat attracts the yetzer hara, even if it's kosher, can we go full vegetarian?
No, if meat attracts yetzer hara, okay, can we go to be vegetarian? That's the question.
Yes.
So I think I would say that there's no problem with the meat, right? The meat you're allowed to eat meat. So I mean, the person has to control himself. I mean, same with wine, right? So it says we're not allowed to be in a state when you do not control yourself. So are you allowed to drink wine? Yeah, you're allowed to drink wine. Are you allowed to drink hard liquor, vodka? You're allowed to drink vodka, but like a little for a good mood, a little, I don't know, for appetite, for whatever people drink these things, right? But that's it. So you're not allowed to lose control. So and same forget about meat, right? But if a person eats cakes or cookie and then he cannot fit into the door, it's also not good. You understand? So the problem not with the meat. The problem is with controlling our appetites. You understand? That's the thing. So don't let's not blame the meat. Let's work on our character to control ourselves. That's the thing. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody? Okay, so we stop here. So tomorrow we're going to continue with our Rambam class.